I need you to pause whatever you're doing and listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal could add years, possibly decades, to your life. And the tragic part is that most physicians, even some oncologists, aren't discussing this with patients over 50. Not because it's controversial, not because it doesn't work, but because there's no pharmaceutical company promoting it, no prescription pad required, no insurance code to bill. I met with Dr. William Lee. He dedicated more than 2.5 decades to researching what actually stops cancer before it starts. Not what treats it after diagnosis, not what manages symptoms, but what prevents it at the cellular level, where cancer first whispers before it screams.
Curious. And I'm going to tell you what he told me, something that might shock you. A massive study from Harvard, spanning nearly 3 decades and tracking over 116,000 people, found that one specific set of daily behaviors cuts your cancer risk by more than 60%. Let me say that again. 60%. That's not a drug. That's not surgery. That's the way you live your life. And today, I'm breaking down the 5 most powerful pieces of that puzzle, ranked from effective to absolutely game-changing. And I'm warning you right now, number 1 on this list is something almost everyone over 60 is getting catastrophically wrong, and fixing it might cut your risk nearly in half by itself. So, don't skip ahead. Don't jump around. Watch this all the way through because the sequence matters. Each habit amplifies the one before it. Before we dive in, I want to ask you something personal. Drop a comment right now telling me your age. And tell me this, has a doctor ever sat down with you and actually talked about preventing cancer? Not detecting it early, not screening for it, but preventing it from ever forming in the first place. I read every single comment. Your answers shape what I cover next, so take 10 seconds and share. If you're serious about living longer, stronger, and healthier, hit that subscribe button right now. I release deep, research-backed content like this every single week. Real science, real solutions, no fluff, no gimmicks, just what actually works for people over 50. All right, let's get into it. Starting at number 5, and I already know some of you are going to roll your eyes at this one, but stick with me, because the biology behind it is absolutely fascinating, and it's probably something you're completely ignoring. I'm talking about drinking cold water, specifically 16 to 20 ounces of filtered water first thing in the morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before you even look at your phone. Now, I know what you're thinking. Water? That's the big secret? But let me explain what's actually happening inside your body when you do this, and why it matters so much after 55. Here's the problem. After you turn 55, something called interoceptive thirst sensitivity starts to decline. In plain English, your brain gets worse at telling you when you're dehydrated. A study from the University of Barcelona in 2019 found that adults over 60 are walking around 8 to 12% below optimal hydration levels, all day, every day, and they don't even feel thirsty. Now, why does that matter for cancer? Because your lymphatic system, think of it as your body's garbage collection service, runs almost entirely on water. It picks up cellular waste, dead cells, damaged DNA fragments, and it hauls them out of your system. But when you're dehydrated, that garbage truck slows to a crawl. Waste accumulates. Inflammation builds. And chronic inflammation is now recognized as one of the primary triggers for cancer development, especially colon, bladder, and kidney cancers. The Harvard Nurses' Health Study, one of the largest and longest-running health studies in history, found that women who drank more than 5 glasses of water daily had a 45% lower risk of colon cancer compared to women who drank 2 glasses or fewer. 45% from water. Something that costs nothing. But here's what makes this critical for aging bodies. Hydration also supports something called autophagy. Think of autophagy as your cell's internal cleaning crew. It breaks down damaged proteins and dysfunctional components before they can turn into something dangerous. After 65, autophagy efficiency drops by about 30%, but proper hydration has been shown to partially restore that function. Here's exactly how to do this. Keep a 20-ounce glass of filtered water on your nightstand. The second your feet hit the floor in the morning, drink the entire thing. All of it, before anything else. You can add a squeeze of fresh lemon if you want. The compound in lemon peel, called D-limonene, has its own anti-tumor properties, but we'll get to that later. And here's your synergy tip. Pair your morning water with 10 minutes of light movement, even just walking around your house, because movement stimulates lymphatic flow and compounds the cellular cleansing effect by up to 40%, according to research from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden. So you're not just hydrating, you're actively flushing your system clean. That's number 5, it's the foundation. But what you layer on top of it at breakfast could be even more powerful. Let's move to number 4. Number 4 is a type of food that's been consumed for thousands of years, dismissed by Western medicine for decades, and is now the focus of over 1,200 peer-reviewed studies on cancer prevention. I'm talking about fermented foods, specifically naturally fermented options like plain yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and miso. In 2021, Stanford University School of Medicine published a groundbreaking study in the journal Cell. They found that adults who ate high-fiber, high-fermented food diets showed dramatically increased gut bacteria diversity and a measurable drop in 19 specific inflammatory proteins. Several of those proteins are directly linked to cancer progression. But here's what makes this especially urgent for people over 50. After 60, something called intestinal permeability increases. Your gut lining literally becomes more porous. Scientists sometimes call this leaky gut. And when your gut leaks, bacterial toxins called lipopolysaccharides seep into your bloodstream. This triggers systemic inflammation, and that inflammation acts like fertilizer for precancerous cells. Let me tell you about Margaret. She's 67, lives in Asheville, North Carolina. She came to me with chronically elevated inflammation markers, constant fatigue, and a strong family history of colon cancer. Her diet was actually pretty good. Lots of vegetables, lean protein, but zero fermented foods. We added 2 servings daily, morning kefir, and a small side of sauerkraut at lunch. 90 days later, her CRP levels, that's C-reactive protein, a key marker of inflammation, dropped by 38%. Her gastroenterologist was stunned. Margaret told me it was the first time in years she felt like herself again. The mechanism here works through something called short-chain fatty acids, particularly one called butyrate. Butyrate is produced when beneficial gut bacteria ferment fiber. And here's the incredible part. Butyrate literally signals precancerous cells in the colon to self-destruct, to undergo what's called apoptosis. Think of butyrate as a security guard who quietly escorts the troublemakers out before they can cause any damage. Aim for 1 to 2 servings of naturally fermented food every day, not pasteurized, because heat kills the live cultures you need. Look for the words live and active cultures on the label. And here's your synergy tip. Pair fermented foods with prebiotic-rich foods, things like garlic, leeks, or slightly green bananas. Prebiotics feed the beneficial bacteria that fermented foods introduce. The combination is far more powerful than either alone. Number 4 is powerful, but number 3 is where the science gets truly extraordinary, and it involves something you've definitely heard of. But I promise, you haven't heard it explained like this. And you're almost certainly not doing it in the way that actually triggers its cancer-fighting effects. I'm talking about walking, but not just any walking. I'm talking about what researchers now call metabolic walking. And the difference between casual strolling and metabolic walking could literally be the difference between feeding cancer and starving it. Here's the science. Your body runs on 2 primary fuel systems, glucose and oxygen. Cancer cells, due to a metabolic quirk, first described by a biochemist named Otto Warburg in 1931, are almost exclusively dependent on glucose. They're terrible at using oxygen for energy. This means that when you engage in sustained, moderate-intensity activity, the kind that elevates your heart rate to 55 to 70% of your maximum, you do 2 remarkable things at once. You deplete circulating glucose, starving cancer cells of their preferred fuel, and you flood your tissues with oxygenated blood, creating an environment that's actively hostile to cancer cell survival. A 2020 meta-analysis from the American Cancer Society reviewed data from 1.4 million adults. They found that regular moderate physical activity was associated with a 42% reduction in colon cancer risk, a 38% reduction in breast cancer risk, and a 27% reduction in lung cancer risk, even in non-smokers. These are extraordinary numbers for something that requires no prescription. But here's where the aging-specific biology becomes critical. After 65, your mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside your cells, decline in both number and efficiency by up to 35%. Mitochondrial dysfunction is now understood to be a key driver of both aging and cancer progression. Sustained moderate walking is one of the only interventions proven to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, meaning it literally signals your body to create new, healthy mitochondria. Think of it like installing a new fleet of power generators in every single cell. Metabolic walking means 30 to 45 minutes of continuous walking at a pace where you can still talk, but would find it slightly difficult to sing. This needs to happen at least 5 days a week, and ideally in the morning before your first full meal. Because fasted movement amplifies the glucose-depleting effect significantly. Let me tell you about Robert. He's 72, from Portland, Oregon, retired teacher. Came to me 3 years ago after a scare. A precancerous polyp removed during a routine colonoscopy. He was terrified. He wasn't exercising at all. We started him on a morning walking protocol, 35 minutes, 5 days a week, combined with dietary changes. At his 2-year follow-up colonoscopy, nothing. Completely clean. His oncologist specifically noted his dramatically improved inflammatory markers and called his recovery exceptional. Robert told me walking felt like medicine. He was absolutely right. It literally is. For synergy, pair your morning walk with your morning water from habit number 5. And if possible, walk somewhere with natural light, because morning sunlight exposure regulates your circadian rhythm, which governs immune surveillance, your body's cancer detection system. The combination is far more powerful than either one alone. Number 3 is remarkable, but the next two are where things get genuinely revolutionary. Number 2 involves something you eat, and the way it fights cancer after 50 is unlike anything else in nutritional science. Here we go. Number 2 is a compound, actually a family of compounds, found in a very specific category of vegetables, and the research on their cancer-fighting mechanism in adults over 50 is some of the most compelling science I've seen in 25 years. I'm talking about sulforaphane, the powerful bioactive compound found in cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, and most potently, broccoli sprouts. Here's why this matters so profoundly for aging biology. In 2018, researchers at Johns Hopkins University, where much of the foundational sulforaphane research was done, published findings showing that sulforaphane activates a master genetic switch called NRF2. Think of NRF2 as the head of security for your DNA. When activated, it triggers over 200 protective genes simultaneously, genes involved in detoxification, antioxidant defense, and critically the repair of damaged DNA before it can mutate into cancer. And here's the aging-specific tragedy that makes this so urgent. NRF2 activity declines by approximately 40% between the ages of 50 and 70. Your DNA repair system is quietly shutting down. Sulforaphane essentially wakes it back up. A landmark study from the University of Illinois found that regular consumption of sulforaphane-rich foods was associated with a 52% reduction in bladder cancer risk, a 41% reduction in prostate cancer incidence, and significant reductions in breast and lung cancer markers. And perhaps most remarkably, a study from Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center found that sulforaphane actually targets cancer stem cells, the particularly dangerous cells that conventional chemotherapy often fails to eliminate, and that are responsible for cancer recurrence. Think of cancer stem cells as the generals of an army. You can wipe out the soldiers, but if the generals survive, they'll rebuild. Sulforaphane goes after the generals. Now, here's the preparation detail that most people get completely wrong. Sulforaphane isn't actually present in broccoli in its active form. It's created through a chemical reaction when you chew or chop the vegetable. This activates an enzyme called myrosinase. But here's the critical issue. Cooking above 140 degrees Fahrenheit destroys myrosinase, which means fully cooked broccoli delivers very little active sulforaphane. The optimal preparation method is to chop or lightly crush your broccoli or sprouts, and let it sit for 40 minutes before consuming or lightly steaming. This allows the myrosinase reaction to complete. Then steam for no more than 3 to 4 minutes. Raw broccoli sprouts require no cooking and deliver up to 50 times more sulforaphane per gram than mature broccoli. Aim for half a cup of raw broccoli sprouts daily, or 1 full cup of lightly prepared broccoli. And here's your synergy tip. Pair your cruciferous vegetables with a small amount of raw mustard seed powder or raw radish. Both are independently rich in active myrosinase. Adding them to cooked cruciferous vegetables effectively restores the enzyme activity that cooking destroyed, increasing sulforaphane bioavailability by up to 4-fold. This is number 2, and it is powerful. But what I'm about to tell you for number 1, the single most impactful daily habit for cancer prevention after 50, this is what the research has been quietly building toward, and what most preventive health conversations never reach. This is the one. Number 1 is sleep, but not just sleep. Specifically, what researchers now call oncological sleep architecture, meaning the specific quality and timing of sleep that activates your body's most powerful anti-cancer system. And the data on what happens to cancer risk when this system is disrupted is frankly terrifying. Here's the mechanism. During deep slow-wave sleep, stage 3 and stage 4, your brain activates the glymphatic system. This is a recently discovered waste clearance network, first described by researchers at the University of Rochester in 2013. It uses cerebrospinal fluid to literally flush toxic proteins and cellular debris from your brain and nervous system. Think of it like a power wash cycle that only runs at night when the factory is closed. But the cancer connection goes far deeper than brain health. During the same deep sleep phases, your body produces its highest concentrations of melatonin, not just the sleep hormone, but one of the most powerful endogenous antioxidants known to science. A comprehensive review published in the journal Cancer Research in 2021 found that melatonin directly inhibits tumor angiogenesis. That means it blocks cancers from building the new blood vessels they need to grow. It also stimulates natural killer cells, the frontline soldiers of your immune system, whose specific job is to identify and destroy cancer cells before they establish themselves. And here's the devastating aging statistic. Melatonin production declines by up to 70% between the ages of 40 and 70. Most people over 65 produce almost negligible amounts during sleep. Your most powerful internal anti-cancer mechanism is running at a fraction of its capacity. A 2019 study from the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified night shift work, which chronically disrupts sleep architecture, as a probable human carcinogen, not a risk factor. A carcinogen, the same category as certain pesticides and industrial chemicals. That's how serious disrupted sleep is for cancer risk. Let me tell you about Eleanor, 71 years old, from Scottsdale, Arizona, retired nurse. She was sleeping only 5 to 6 hours a night and waking frequently. Her immune panel showed severely suppressed natural killer cell activity. We worked together on what I call a sleep recalibration protocol, consistent 10 p.m. bedtime, complete darkness, room temperature lowered to 67 degrees, all screens off 90 minutes before bed, and a small serving of tart cherry juice at 8 p.m. for its natural melatonin precursors. Within 6 weeks, her sleep duration reached 7.5 hours consistently. At her 3-month follow-up, her natural killer cell count had increased by 47%. Her oncology team was astonished. She told me she hadn't slept that well since her 40s. The research is clear. Adults over 60 who consistently sleep 7 to 8.5 hours per night in proper dark, cool environments have cancer mortality rates up to 48% lower than those sleeping under 6 hours, according to a 20-year study from the University of California, San Diego. This is not a minor variable. This is the master switch. To optimize your sleep for cancer protection, do these things without negotiation. Set a consistent bedtime and wake time, even on weekends. Your circadian rhythm doesn't take days off. Make your room completely dark. Even small amounts of light suppress melatonin production. Cool your room to between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and avoid eating within 3 hours of sleep, because digestion competes with the cellular repair work your body needs to prioritize overnight. Your synergy tip for sleep. Combine your sleep optimization with daily morning sunlight exposure from habit number 3, because morning light anchors your circadian rhythm and directly increases your evening melatonin output. The two habits, working together, create a biological environment in which cancer struggles to take hold. All of the studies referenced throughout this video are linked in the description below. I encourage you to read them, share them with your doctor, and ask the questions that your appointments often don't leave time for. Here's what I want you to hear as we close. You are not too old for prevention. The science does not have an age limit, whether you're 55 or 85. Whether you've had a cancer scare or never given it a thought, your body retains a remarkable capacity to heal, to defend, and to regenerate when you give it what it needs. These 5 habits: morning hydration, daily fermented foods, metabolic walking, sulforaphane-rich cruciferous vegetables, and restorative sleep. These are not exotic protocols. They are the conditions your biology was designed to thrive in. They cost almost nothing. They require no prescription. And every single morning, you get a fresh opportunity to begin. Your independence, your quality of life, your ability to be present for the people you love. That's worth 30 minutes of walking, a glass of water, and a bedtime. Don't let anyone tell you it's too late. The research says otherwise. And so do I. If this video helped you, please subscribe to this channel and share it with someone you care about. Every week, we go this deep into the science of aging well, and your support makes that work possible. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 habits are you starting first? And what's been your biggest barrier to good sleep? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one.